So 10 plus years ago, I used to experience sleep paralysis on a consistent, more prevalent basis, much more than I would ever experience it now. Now, when I experience sleep paralysis, it's every blue moon. I've sort of worked that out of my repertoire of experience. You see, the thing is that when you have these experiences, you have these dreams, you start succumbing to the astral persons, that other entities, the dominator, the master, at least in that particular sphere, that particular sphere master of that particular illusion, that Maya, they are operating with you as the projector of a certain reality in which they want you to succumb to their will and the purpose and the design. When you experience these things enough, you start to tell yourself, you are not going to cause me to succumb to your fear, succumb to your paradigm anymore and any longer. Last time I experienced this in a sort of sleep paralysis state, whether in a dream or in the body, I said to myself after waking up that this is not going to happen again. That I am going to, by sheer will, choose that within that dream, within that state, you are not going to overpower me, that I am more stronger than you in my will and my purpose and my design, that I will operate as the white void within the black void, and I will send you information that your paradigm and the Maya that you construct around me. I will twist that like a whirlwind, like a tornado, and you will become enveloped within my paradigm, my purpose, my design, and you will succumb to my force, you see. So this partly may be the reason why sleep paralysis doesn't happen to me as much as anymore. In the out of body community, they have talked about how sleep paralysis being the gateway to out of body experiences. Well, there's many gateways. I think there's a very minute or a slither within the out of body experience when it comes to liminal spaces. Now, I think there's something greater than just simply having out of body experience. Certainly, you don't want to have a near death experience because you might not survive that. But when it comes to out of body experiences, you want to experience that regardless of your state. You want to always be in a conscious state of different realities. So the thing is that we have different layers, different astral planes, different layers. I've talked about in previous videos is that our body is constructed and held up and supported by multiple bodies, subtle bodies. Now, these subtle bodies are also connected, and I'll get into a future video. These subtle bodies are also connected to higher, different planes of existence in different realms. So you have different realms, which you would foresee as space, foresee as a territory, a city, a geographic location, but your subtle body is also that geographic location, that the geographic location of this alternate state of reality, this plane of existence. Like within Hinduism, they have 14 lokas. And with Christianity, you have what is known as the third heaven, the second heaven, and the first heaven. Well, your subtle bodies are linked up and tied to these heavens, these planes of existence. So that when you tune and become conscious of these subtle bodies, you are also in simultaneously in tandem, and you're also becoming connected and tuned into, sucked into that plane as well. It is a subtle plane. It's less dense than the physical plane. So these things are correlated. The subtle planes are correlated with your subtle bodies. The more you're conscious of these small slithers of bodies that support your physical existence, you start to tune into these subtle planes and levels of reality. So the matter about here is that how can we get conscious of these realities that are all around us, teeming left and right? Before we get into that, before we ever get to that, let's talk about a few experiences. I had these few experiences. The most one that's predominantly recent is that I was sitting down, meditating, and I must have come to a place of between sleep and awake state. So, as in likewise, I open my eyes and I'm in my room, of course, and my room looks totally the same. The only thing that is starkly different is that my TV the TV was off, so with a black mirror. My TV appeared cracked. There was lines, and the TV did not look as it would normally look. So I stared at it for a bit, wondering what's going on. This is interesting. It's a lot of times in these states, you're not very perplexed. You just notice things. It doesn't change your emotions, raise your emotions up or down. You're just kind of like, what's the word? You're nonchalant about it. These experiences are, you're sort of nonchalant. So I've seen this TV, and the TV appeared broken. There's lines on it. So I'm wondering what is going on with this TV that doesn't look like it normally would look. And then as I mentioned, nonchalant, I just closed my eyes again, not understanding that I'm seeing something in the astral. And then after maybe a few seconds to maybe a minute, time here does not exist. Time here is just it ceases to exist. You're just in a timeless state, in a meditative state. So at some point I'll open my eyes again and my TV is back to normal, black screen, no lines in it. Thinking the only thing different about the room was with my peripheral vision is that the TV had streaks of lines in it. Now whatever that may mean, I don't know. But this was a different experience in which I'm seeing this different reality of this TV. And my eyes were opened to a certain perspective. Some time ago, I also had a dream where, in this dream, in a nutshell, I looked above me to my back. For some reason, decided to look behind me to my back, and like almost right behind me, almost as if attached to me, there was a extremely, really tall, maybe 10 to 12 foot angel behind me. And this angel had a crown on his head. And as instantly as I saw that and viewed that, I experienced bliss. And this experience of bliss and expanded consciousness caused me to start to levitate in the air in this dream. It usually, when this happens in the dream, I've had this happen multiple times in dreams, in which I start to have this expanded consciousness and I start levitating in the dream, or start flying in the dream, or floating in the dream. And usually this is which I feel enveloped by a cloud. It's as if I grow wings, but it's like an envelop of a cloud around me. Similarly, before this dream where I talked about previously with a broken astral TV, usually when I have these experiences, there seems to be very vivid imagery in my mind's eye, in which I'm seeing things in my mind's eye continuously, in which I don't even have to imagine. It's just images continuously seem to pop in my mind's eye. But in this instance, I noticed that there was somewhat like of a mantle, if you will, some type of force seemed to hover over my shoulder, as if a person putting like a fur coat around you. And I can distinctly feel this covering me. You see, so there's another experience some time ago in which I'm walking outside, and I'm walking alongside, talking to, in the dream. My recollection is that in the dream, was a particular prominent spiritual pastor. And as I'm talking to this prominent spiritual pastor, I believe his name on the internet is Kevin Zadai. This person, which I know is an angel in that dream, briefly touches my side, and it seems like this happens is sort of a energetic pulse when it happens, where something pokes you or touches your side and it sends a energetic jolt through your body. So when the person in this dream did that, nothing happened initially, but I remember it in the dream as if this person around that I was talking to is trying to teach me how to jump. Similarly to how in the Hulk movie, how Hulk would run and jump across a far distance before falling down. So in this dream, I was staring at a distant light. I latched onto that light. And as I latched onto that light, I was catapulted in the air. I jumped and was catapulted in the air. It was extreme, going extreme pressure felt upon my neck. And this angel, this human that was next to me, that I recognize as Kevin Zadai, but an angel next to me, or a human, was also with me as I was jumping. And we jumped and fell down upon a ceiling of a building in which these other people started trying to attack us, and we knocked them out. I had another experience in which I experienced sleep paralysis, probably the last time I experienced sleep paralysis. I woke up, and it seems as if in the dream I had sleep paralysis, not just waking up, but in the dream I had sleep paralysis. I couldn't tell whether or not I was dreaming or was awake, but it was some type of sleep paralysis where I couldn't move. But I know that the area that was in the same area of my room, and I saw this woman standing, looking, the visual of it was hazy, so it wasn't clear. So this woman was a hazy picture to her. I couldn't see in clarity who this was. But I see a woman standing in my place in this dream, but also in while awake, because it's the same scenario and the same layout of my room, the same plants, you see. So I'm seeing there, I can't move, but I can speak, and I say, hey, as if to try to get her attention. Like, what are you doing? Stand here, who are you? Woman never moved, didn't turn her head, didn't react. So, turning this back and circling this back to the topic of liminal spaces, is that liminal spaces being these in between portals, these in between spaces. We understand that in the movie The Matrix, I forget if it was 1, 2, or 3, whatever Matrix, in which there was a keymaster and he was taking Neo down a hallway into these multiple doors. So these doors led to different realities, different places, and you have to go to certain doors to get to different areas. That is liminal spaces. So oftentimes when people experience these dreamlike sequences, they're moving through these liminal spaces so quickly they don't realize that they're in the back doors of these liminal spaces, in these rooms, these portals. They're going through these portals so quickly, these liminal spaces so quickly, interacting with the black void and the white void, and the white void and the black void, and just pulling that reality towards you, jumping into that different alternate reality, that plane of existence, and then taking that plane of existence and seeing another plane of existence coming to the horizon and jumping in that, pulling that consciousness and going around and leads you to different realities, different points of time, different points of space. This is liminal spaces. And there's a transportation technology behind transversing liminal spaces and back rooms. That if you understand the map, the astral map, the geological heavenly spiritual map of these little spaces that you'll be able to transverse to different alternate realities, planes of existence, like a vehicle. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.